Welcome. This is the Tea on UNC, and today we have a really special guest. We have our program director, Dr. Deb Bynum, here with us. So just a little bit of kind of background on Dr. Bynum. She's from she went to Davidson for undergrad, which we have in common, yes. And then she went to UNC for med school and just kind of stayed put. Did residency there, did a chief year there, worked out at Wake Med for a couple of years, and then came back to do geriatric fellowship and has been here since. She's been the program director at UNC since 2014, and she's done wonders for our program. So Dr. Bynum, welcome.
Thank you. Yeah, this is fun to do, tea on UNC. I'm really excited. It's my first Instagram event too, so there's that.
Well, welcome to the gram. And I think also I think we're having to be creative this year about how we can engage with applicants, and you're hip, we're rolling with the flow, have to kind of adapt, and here we are. So I guess the first question I wanted to ask you was, when you first came to UNC, why did you come? And then what has kept you here all these years?
That's a good question. So I've been at UNC for the most part of 30 years now. I was thinking about this. I came to UNC as a med student in 1990. They're actually they just tore down the building that I spent thousands of hours in during med school, Berry Hill. So I had to send that to all my friends that I did med school with. So I came here as a med student from Davidson. I was really the first in my family to even go to college. So for me, UNC was the place to go. It was the state school, the state hospital. So that was where I came. And then once I came here as a med student, I just fell in love with the place and the people. And I've looked over the years, I've looked at other places, but I always come back to UNC in Chapel Hill.
Well, that's good. We like having you here. So we're fortunate that it has kind of found its place in your heart because we need you. So tell me a little bit about your job as program director. What does a normal day look like for you?
Yeah, that's interesting. So I think one of the reasons why I love this job is there really isn't a typical day for me. It is so every day is different. So I spend a fair amount of time on the inpatient service, as you know. So when I'm on the inpatient service, my day starts early in the morning. I come in and I pre-round on patients, right? I'm preparing for rounds and spend the day rounding and teaching and seeing patients. So that's, a fair number of weeks for the year. Other days are administrative meetings. Those aren't my favorite days, but there's a certain amount of administration that has to happen, especially with COVID. So a lot of the days have been meetings with hospital leadership and departmental leadership. And then the other part of my job is meeting with residents. So that's actually one of my favorite things. So some programs sort of outsource the meetings with residents, where associate program directors will do a fair number of the regular meetings with residents. I still meet with every single resident, all 90 something of you guys, at least twice a year. So a lot more. So I love that part of my job, is actually meeting individually. I meet with students who are applying into internal medicine. So a lot of it's just the human connections that I try to make with the people in our program. To me, that brings me a lot of joy. A lot of it's, and then the administrative side of just running the program, making sure all the T's are crossed and the I's are dotted so that we stay in compliance with ACGME rules. And then I get to go to conferences. I've never stopped going to Resident Report in like 25 years. So that's, for me, that's always the highlight of my day. I love Resident Report. So it's a fun job. If anybody's interested in medical education, it has been my dream job. I have always wanted to be a PD. So it's a fun job, but it's something different every day.
Yeah, I think, I've had several talks with some of my peers about how helpful their meetings with you have been. It's just kind of like a touch base of, this is where we are, this is how things have been going, and, talking about career goals and just kind of making sure you're on track.
Yeah. And then some of the meetings are impromptu, right? Like you guys all have my cell phone. So yesterday I was getting a few texts. Some of the third years who are applying for fellowship, are meeting with me to figure out their rank list and how to navigate some of the issues of interviews and post-interview communication and all of that for fellowship. So I'm sort of on speed dial to help with any of those issues that arise. And I love helping people work through that as well. So
So you talked a little bit about how your job has changed a lot with COVID, and you've had a lot more meetings and a lot more administrative stuff. I personally think our program dealt with that situation really well. I don't know that there was a right way to deal with it, but I felt that we were protected as much as could be possible, and very much cared for.
Mm-hmm.
Talk to me about how your job has changed because of this, and how the application process will be different this year as we adapt to new changes.
Yeah, so I think, everything going virtual is definitely a big shift and a big change. I agree with you. I think, I don't know if we dealt with COVID right way or wrong way. I know some of the residents um, were demanding to get in, to be actually in the rooms with our COVID positive patients early on. And I think we took the stance that, we wanted to make sure that everyone was protected. I think ultimately we're responsible for each and every one of you. And so I think how you guys actually responded and developed the COVID elective was like really fascinating and cool. I think how I approached it was knowing that there were going to be things that went well and things that we could have done better, but I always wanted to be transparent. And so that was my approach with all of you, was to just be as transparent as possible about what was going on at the hospital leadership level and the departmental level.
Yeah.
So application process this year is going to be different, as all of you know, and I think we're trying to make the process as similar to what we've done in the past. What we really are striving for is to make sure when applicants are virtually with us that they're able to pick up on the real culture of UNC, which is, I think, what makes us special.
Yeah, I think there is such a warmth, and it's kind of a tangible thing. I know Casey and I, when we talked last week, we used that word a lot, but it's true. It feels warm. People are really nice. People are excited to meet new people, and just really embrace everybody that becomes a part of our community. And it's hard to completely convey that through a screen.
Yeah.
But hopefully things like this will help. And, I know that in interviews with you, some of that will convey. Not so. Too scary to interview.
I hope so.
We, as residents, will miss the chance to meet everybody and to get to see everyone, go to interview dinners, and just interact during noon conference and all those things. What do you think is the biggest selling point our program has to offer, and how will we convey that virtually?
Yeah, so I think selling points for our program are going to be, and I've got people like at my door waving at me. My door's always open, so that's what you have when your door is always open, is little people coming and waving at you. I think the selling points for our program are, again, the people, the culture. I would say there are a few things that make us really unique as well. I do think this is these are speaking points that you'll find in a lot of programs, but I think here more than other programs, this is a very resident-led program. I really tried to, in the leadership, the department chair, Dr. Falk, we really try to listen to what the residents say. All the changes we've made in the last 5 years have been all resident driven. There are very few things that we are going to say, like, no, that's not a good idea too. Like, we really want this to be a resident run program. We feel that you are all the ones who are out there. You're seeing what the issues are. You have like wonderful ideas. And so I do think it's a very resident run program. Other things that make us unique, it is a state hospital. So we are, the plaque that's in the front lobby of our hospital, we are a hospital by and for the people of the state. And so that is very different. And when I was looking for residency programs, that was important to me. I really wanted to work in an institution that was took all comers, and so we take care of all patients regardless of their ability to pay. We don't have teaching services and private services that are separated on your ability to pay. So you might have a road or a building named after you, and depending on the caps and the censuses, you're going to end up on a teaching service or a hospitalist service. It's not going to be based on who you are. So that was really important to me. And that has been a big reason why I stay. And I think if you look at a lot of the faculty, fellows, faculty who have stayed here for a long time, the mission of the place is what keeps a lot of us here. It's good to come to work when you feel like the work you're doing is meaningful. I think our subspecialty services are pretty amazing. Not many programs have subspecialty services. So the residents really get to work elbow to elbow with nephrologists and infectious disease specialists. And, it's just unlike any other opportunity, which opens up the world for getting involved with research. And I think a lot of people may not realize UNC is a research powerhouse as well. So despite the fact that we're a state hospital, we're always, 10, 11, 12 in the country, competing against private institutions and NIH and overall funding. So as a Department of Medicine, so the research opportunities here are amazing as well. So I think it offers a lot within a mission-driven institution.
Absolutely. And I think UNC is a place where you're going to get the education, you're going to have all the opportunities for where you want to go afterwards, but while you're here, it's also, you feel good about the work you're doing, you feel empowered as a resident. Just a great place to work. I would
and the
agree.
Diversity, right? Like we see patients from all over with all kinds of medical issues from all different types of backgrounds. And again, as a resident, you're going to take care of professors and engineers, and you're also going to take care of folks who still don't have running water, right? So we take care of everyone, and the diversity of the medical issues that you see, like what I hear from other institutions that take our residents as hospitalists and fellows are that our residents come ready to work. Like they are completely ready for independent practice when they leave here after doing residency here. The clinical training, I think, is really second to none.
Yeah, I mean, we see everything. I think exactly like you said, because of the diversity of our population, but it's important to have that breadth of kind of social situations that you see, because you could, if you're training somewhere where they really aren't accepting anyone except patients with insurance, and you decide you want to practice elsewhere, navigating kind of social situations and how to get your patients what they need is such a skill. And that's something that is part of the learning curve intern year. And I feel really lucky that we get to see all these different kinds of patients, because I feel like no matter where I go, I will at least know what resources are available for my patients, so they can have what they need regardless of the money they have. Very true. So you've kind of talked about how we're prepared for independent practice once we graduate here, just because of the breadth of what we see. But tell me a little bit about education at UNC. What kind of, what's our curriculum like, and what is kind of the core of our education for residents?
Yeah, so I think, we've always viewed the core as being really making sure that every single resident, regardless of what you want to go into, has that foundation in general medicine, inpatient and outpatient, that you have those core skills. If you're going to be a fellow, you have plenty of time to learn cardiology and GI, right? So, but we want to make sure that you're a good internist, that you know how to deal with patients who are in the ICU, that you can work with patients in the same day clinic. We want to make sure that everyone has those skills. After that, we also want to make sure that you have plenty of opportunity within the curriculum to really drive your own goals and needs for your specific career. So second and third year, there's more flexibility, right, for you to participate in subspecialty clinics. So if you're going into GI, in addition to your own clinic, you can have a continuity relationship with a faculty member in the GI clinic that you go to every few weeks. So there's a lot of flexibility within the curriculum. I think about it almost as selectives that you can choose from, to really help you with what you need to get to the next step in your career. So between clinics and electives and that sort of thing, you can sort of design your own. I always think about it also as a pyramid almost, where we expect everyone to know how to teach medical students. We expect everyone to know how to use the ultrasound machine, to do procedures under ultrasound guidance, to understand the basics of POCUS, to understand the basics of global health, especially with our patient population where global health is often local. So expect everyone to know those things, but then we also have opportunities, right, for people second and third year to really hone those skills. So if you really are, I want to do global health for a living, then you can do the global health track. You can get a certificate through the GME office. You can do more rotations. You can do, in the era of not COVID, international travel. If you say, I want to be a medical educator, then you do the med ed elective and you do more dedicated time to actually be honing your med ed skills. If you say POCUS is my direction, then you do the POCUS elective. For those who really want to be champions, we've sent people to be certified through CHEST and POCUS, right? So I feel like it's really developing that pyramid where everybody has the foundation, and then you give people the flexibility and the opportunities to do more specific things that fit their career needs.
Absolutely. I think at a minimum, if you're graduating from UNC, you're going to be a damn good internist. Mm-hmm. And then, who knows where your career will go afterwards. Right, and of course, all the doors are open, but very true. So what do you think the best resource we have at UNC is for our residents? I mean, I can think of a couple. Our resident assistants are mm-hmm. stellar.
Yeah, that's a good point.
That's huge, and kind of minimizing some of the work that maybe you don't have time to do when you're trying to provide excellent patient care on the floor. Yeah. What other ones can you think of?
I think, so it was only a few years ago that we developed the whole medical admitting officer. And that's really unique to our program. So we have medical admitting officers that most of them, they all have a nursing background. Most of them were house supervisors, so they know the system as well. Some of them come from the world of NICU, where they have to run a lot of issues with beds and placement and that sort of thing. So we have 24/7 medical admitting officers. So all admissions have to go through them. So as a resident, you're not trying to triage who has a spot available. You're also not getting called from the hospitalist with oh, we didn't want this patient, so we're admitting them to you. They're sort of a neutral party because they admit to they are air traffic controllers for admissions to cardiology, medicine services, and the hospitalist services. So they will call the hospitalist with admissions, they'll call us with admissions. So most programs either have the hospitalist being air traffic controllers, or they rely on the residents to do it. And so I think that's kind of unique, and they get to know and love the residents. They're really part of our family. Joanne cries every year when you guys graduate. She really does. She's our lead MAO. So I think that's a really unique resource as well.
Yeah, shout out to Joanne and Susan and Stephanie and Renee, and I'm forgetting Beth is an MAO. Yeah, they're incredible, and they're such, every time you get an admission, it's like a treat to call them and to chat and see how their day is going. So I feel bad that wasn't the first thing that I led with.
And then I think a big resource too are the faculty. You can email any faculty, and a lot of our faculty have, worldwide reputations, and you can email them. Last time, I don't know if you were on service with me, but we had this whole question about why patients shouldn't eat when they're in DKA. And I'm I actually think they should. And so I sent out this email to John Buse, who is a worldwide expert in diabetes, who then shot an email to literally an international expert on DKA. And we had this email train going with the residents on service and our division chief for endocrinology and this international expert in DKA about the pros and cons of feeding people and what you feed them. What kind of meal do you give them? What's the balance of protein and carbohydrates if they're still in DKA? So the faculty are really, so approachable, and they really get into, if you email them with a question like that, or wanting to work on a research project with them. Just people are so accessible, despite how renowned they may be. That's I think the faculty then are a really great resource for folks.
Yeah, lots of humility. You know, these are
Yeah.
humble people who are big deals, but
Yeah.
you know, don't act like they're big deals.
Right.
I would be remiss if I didn't mention there's one other resource, and that's Michelle and Kisa.
Oh, right. Amazing.
I
Yeah.
mean, yeah,
They love
they already know.
the residents. They love you guys.
They already know that I have a bleeding heart for both of them.
Yes. Yeah.
Kisa once told me though, Kisa told me last week, she said, I was with Leslie Appleton, and she said, Leslie, you were like a filet mignon. And she was like, Mason, you were like ground beef. And I was like, what? Excuse me, Kisa. She said, I'm kidding. You know I love you. But last question that I have for you before we rapid fire. What advice do you have to applicants who are navigating this interview season during COVID and everything's online? It's, you know,
that's a great question. So what I would encourage people to do is really reach out. So reach out to, look through the residence list. Every website has our current residents. Look through the residents, find people that went to your school and email them. Reach out to them. Residents at a program that you're going to be interested in going to will respond to you, right? Yeah. And so even if you don't know them, if they went to your school, reach out and just say, hey, give me the skinny on this. What is this like? And then reach out to the residents at your place too, because the interns and residents that you're working with just went through this process a year or two ago where they could actually go and travel, and they probably visited a lot of programs, and they can tell you the vibe, right, at different programs. And because it's going to be hard, because there isn't a perfect program. There's no, like, when people start ranking programs, it actually is a little distressing to me, because I don't think you can really rank a program. You can rank a program individually for what's best for you, right? But there are so many great programs, honestly, and they all differ, right? So you've got to sit down and have a gut check on, do I want a big program, a medium-sized program, or a small program? Do I want a program in a city, in the suburbs, or a rural community program? Do I want an academic or a community program? Do I want, there are all these things. Do I want a program that's very research heavy, very clinical heavy, or somewhere in between? And so those are the things, right? So one person's number one program is not going to be the same as somebody else's number one program. And that's okay. That's what makes this whole process cool, right? So you're going to sit down and do a gut check about those basic things, about the type of programs you want. And then I would not try to apply to every single program across the country, because it's just not going to help you. And then reach out to the programs that you feel like, this meets my checky boxes, right? This is a state hospital or private hospital. This is a big program or medium program. This is a research heavy or not research heavy. Get those list of programs with your advisor, then reach out to the residents there, talk to the residents at your program, and figure out like what some of the culture and the vibe were. Read the websites, look at all the residents on the websites, look at where they came from, what they do, get a sense for, who you'd be working with, because you're going to spend the next couple of years with those people.
Awesome. I think all really good advice. I think, the other thing I would stress is that we're in this together. This is new for you.
Yeah. I'm super stressed about this. Like, if any of the applicants want to know, like, I can't sleep right now. Like, this is super stressful for me. I'd rather have a normal interview day and the frenzy up and down the hallway. This is super stressful for programs as well.
Yeah, and so we're all in it together, so we're kind of figuring it out. So just like you said, if there's any questions, just reach out, because we're all in this together and trying to kind of normalize as much as possible what can't be a normal situation anymore.
Yeah.